I'm going to give it up to the old money value system just because it was more restrained. Given where the world has gone, especially these last decade, I see the effects of money on the world, and I think we could have used a lot more of the old money value system. We let go of a lot of it in favor of a kind of rampant capitalism or greed, or thinking appearances count more than character, or money counts more than quality of life. I could see the new money creating a wonderful, exciting world, but I think we're reaping the consequences of a new way of thinking that went way out of control.
Until the new money arrived to burn the rulebook to the ground, our story is one of two houses on 61st Street. One built on heritage, the other built on cold, hard cash. It is a time of extreme contrast, where the wealth of a single family could rival the treasury of a small nation, while the people serving their dinner lived in the shadows of the basement. Our entry point into this labyrinth is Marion Brooke. After the death of her father in Pennsylvania, Marion discovers he left her with nothing but a few dollars.
And I cannot find any assets beyond the contents of his bank account.
And to her, the Mayflower isn't just a ship, it's a biological requirement for existence. She views the world from her parlor with a mixture of disdain and terror. She represents the Knickerbocker families, the Livingstons, the Schuyler's, the Astors, who believe that wealth should be quiet, old, and inherited. To Agnes, the Russells across the street aren't neighbors. They are an invasive species. But right across the street, the skyline has changed. A massive chateau of granite and gold has risen, belonging to George and Bertha Russell. George is a robber baron in the truest sense, a railroad tycoon who treats the American landscape like his personal chessboard. He is a man who breaks unions with a flick of his pen and buys legislatures over lunch. He is the engine of the new economy, ruthless and efficient. But Bertha is the one to watch. She is a social architect. While George conquers the tracks, Bertha intends to conquer the drawing rooms. She doesn't just want a seat at the table. She wants to own the table, the chairs, and the room they sit in. Her ambition is a physical force, driving her to spend millions on a house that her neighbors refuse to enter. Bertha Russell believes that if she builds a big enough house, the elite will have no choice but to enter it. She throws a housewarming ball of unprecedented scale, hiring the finest chefs and decorators in the world. The result? A deafening, humiliating silence. The old money families, led by the gatekeeper Mrs. Astor and her social lieutenant Ward McAllister, snub her. They don't just decline, they ignore her existence. This is the catalyst for Bertha's transformation. She realizes that in New York, money is the ammunition, but status is the high ground. She begins a campaign of strategic philanthropy, buying her way into charities like the Red Cross to force the old guard to acknowledge her. She learns that if you can't join them, you buy them. While Bertha battles in the ballroom, George battles in the courtroom and the stock exchange. A catastrophic train derailment puts his empire and his freedom at risk. He is accused of criminal negligence, and for a moment, the Van Ryans watch with predatory glee, hoping to see the Russells drag through the mud. But George isn't a victim, he's a predator. In a legendary showdown, he uncovers a web of internal embezzlement involving his own staff. He doesn't just clear his name, he crushes his enemies financially. This arc highlights the grudge in our title. George doesn't just want to win, he wants to ensure his enemies never rise again. By the second season, the conflict moves from the shadows into the spotlight. The battlefield is the Academy of Music. In the 1880s, an opera box at the Academy was the ultimate status symbol. There were only a few, and they were held by the same families for generations. When the Academy refuses to grant Bertha a box, she doesn't beg, she builds. Bertha puts the full weight of the Russell fortune behind the construction of the Metropolitan Opera House.
I give you the grandest opera house in the world, the new Metropolitan!
This becomes a literal opera war. Bertha spends the season poaching the elite. She realizes the Academy is old, cramped, and lacks modern comforts. The Met, however, has electric lights, better sight lines, and, most importantly, enough boxes for everyone who can pay. Bertha uses the Met to create a new in crowd, leaving the old guard to rot in their dusty academy. The climax is the Night of Two Operas. It's a strategic massacre. The Academy stands nearly empty, a relic of a dying age, while the Met is a shimmering sea of diamonds and velvet. When Mrs. Astor is finally forced across the street and enter the Met, it signals the official end of the old Knickerbocker era. Success has come at a heavy cost to the Russell family. Bertha's ambition has evolved from social acceptance to historical legacy. A duke. She orchestrates a marriage between her daughter Gladys and the Duke of Buckingham. This isn't a fairy tale, it's a cold business deal. Bertha secretly promises the Duke a massive financial bailout in exchange for the marriage, effectively selling her daughter into a loveless union. When George Russell discovers this betrayal, it cracks the foundation of the strongest marriage in New York. George, who has always been Bertha's partner in crime, realizes that his wife's ambition knows no bounds, not even the happiness of their children. The Russells are now at the height of their social power, but they are personally estranged. Their empire is a hollow shell, filled with gold but lacking the love that once fueled them. As we look toward the future, the question remains, in a world where everything, from an opera box to a daughter's hand in marriage, has a price tag, what is actually worth keeping? The Russells have the world, but they may have lost their family. The Van Ryans have their name, but they've lost their autonomy. The gold is beautiful, the diamonds are bright, but in the Gilded Age, the most expensive thing you could own was the truth. As the sun sets on 61st Street, the lights of the Met turn on, and a new era begins. The battle of gold and grudge is over, but the story of America is just beginning.
Season 3 of HBO's The Gilded Age begins this month. Set in the 1880s, it's about old money
Why don't we just go outside and roll in the gutter? It will save time.
meeting new, much bigger money, as well as the less-known world of upwardly mobile black Americans in the years between emancipation and the worst of Jim Crow.
She's a bit of a revolutionary in her spirit, and she also is a daughter who was raised with a lot of expectations.
You haven't seen a purse by any chance?
I'm afraid not.
It had my train and ferry tickets and my money. I don't know what I'm going to do.
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry it's not first class.
Nonsense, you've been very kind. I promise my aunts are good for the money. You must give me your parents' address to send the money.
If you could leave an envelope to be collected.
Of course. Wait, let us at least give you a ride.
Thank you.
Can we take her to the Brooklyn ferry?
No ferries are running. Not in this weather.
I'll be fine.
I'm not leaving without you.
An unknown colored woman lent you money to travel to New York?
And she's here now?
Well, her parents live in Brooklyn.
Well, then of course she must stay.
Bring her in first. You may stay on one condition, that you give me your parents' address in case anything happens.
Very well.
Who taught you to write like this?
The Institute for Colored Youth in Philadelphia.
But I know it well.
We used to attend the wonderful Christmas pageants at the school. Were you a part of that?
Every year.
Oh!
Let's get you settled, Miss Scott.
Thank you.
Time for somebody like a Peggy?
You know, honestly, I can't get past how physically uncomfortable it must have been to live in that time, in the clothes you were in, without air conditioning, with the smells of, like, the horses.
Right.
I think someone who was moving the way Peggy was moving, fighting for voting rights, fighting for action, to see her community look different than she left it, I imagine it was exciting for her to feel like, oh, I was born in this one window where had it been 20 years earlier, or 30 years later, I might not have had this kind of mobility.
The Gilded Age, roughly the last third of the 19th century, was a time of seismic disruption as the United States moved from the agrarian republic envisioned by the founders to an industrialized powerhouse.
We buy every piece of company stock that comes on the market, and not a soul is to hear about it. Hide the purchases. I don't want them traced back to me.
Morgan Spector plays George Russell, who is, depending on your point of view, either a reputable captain of industry or a rapacious robber baron.
He's kind of an amalgam of the industrialists of this period. He's in railroads, he's in steel, and I think he's also a financial wizard, as I think specifically Jay Gould really was known for at the time.
The railroad magnate.
The railroad magnate, but also somebody who was incredibly good at inventing new ways of separating people from their money. He doesn't really have constraints on his own behavior. When he needs to do anything to achieve an objective, he does it.
And now I will build a new line alongside yours.
Which would wipe me out.
Absolutely, yeah.
They really do half the work.
Yes.
Like, it's sort of impossible to sit in a room like this
Yeah.
and not let it transport you.
So that tapestry is the triumph of avarice.
This room is in New York City's Morgan Library and Museum, where Colin Bailey is director.
It's a lot of space for one person.
After 1907, he basically considered this to be the uptown branch of his office in Wall Street.
Yes, this was the personal office and library of J.P. Morgan, one of the most prominent figures of the Gilded Age.
The Gilded Age is described in many ways, including as an age of unrestraint.
age, not a golden age. If you take a iron bracelet, right, not very attractive, but if you dip it in gold, it looks pretty good.
Edward O'Donnell is a history professor at the College of the Holy Cross.
The great vexing thing in the Gilded Age is that we have so much progress, so much wealth generation, and we seem to have more poverty than ever before. So if you're in New York City, you can walk down Fifth Avenue and be dazzled by all the wealth and all the incredibly expensive goods in the stores, and then you just go a few blocks away to a slum district, and suddenly you are surrounded by hundreds of thousands of people living in 6-story tenements, some of which that don't have running water.
The wealth was powered in part by the mass production of steel.
What's the thing that's changed our world in the last 50 years? It's the silicon chip, right? Steel is the thing that does that in the Gilded Age. It makes skyscrapers possible. It makes the Transcontinental Railroad possible. It makes gigantic factories with heavy, complex, new machinery possible.
For those who lived through it, did it feel like a lot was